to the committee, to your position with the municipality. So thank you very much, and it's a pleasure to meet you. And I'm sure hopefully we'll get to meet face to face one day soon.
One day.
I don't know when that will be, but I look forward to that. And thank you all for joining in. Aaron, nice to see you again, and Liam and Daniel, nice to see you as well. First of all, we'll deal with I think we'll go straight to the agenda and look at item 1, which is the approval of the agenda, if that is okay, Stephanie.
Yeah, we just have a couple of late items for presentations, but no new topics from my end.
Okay. Are there any other items that anyone would like to add to the agenda at this point? Sorry, Councillor Fast.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just wondering if we're going to touch on the COVID pandemic in this meeting, or is that not a topic for, or maybe it's covered in the, I didn't get all the way through the action items and things.
Staff update, will it be included?
Yeah, I mean, we closed the EOC on that. I think last meeting you guys had the after action report regarding COVID. Going forward, it's more of a like a work safe regulations and stuff like that that are sort of like guiding, I guess, what's happening.
So we've got a 5 minutes for other business at the end of the agenda. Can we do a quick little verbal there?
Sure.
Yeah. Would be great.
Okay.
Just because it seems silly during a pandemic not to be talking about the pandemic and emergency program. Thank you.
Yes, I think that's a good idea, because we did actually include it at some of the last meetings we had. We talked about updating the pandemic plan, I believe, earlier. So that's a good idea to add that to other business.
Okay.
So if that's okay, I could move approval of the agenda then. That's moved by Councillor Fast, seconded by Christie. And I think Alison is in there, thank you. I suppose we have to move, call for a vote on that, do we, Stephanie?
Sure, all in favor? Practice it out. Got everybody, good.
I'm not sure how formal this is in this meeting, but I think we should better do it.
It's good practice.
It is good practice, yes. Okay. October 13th was the last meeting that we had almost a year ago. And as Stephanie said just now, the minutes most of the minutes are probably out of date by now. But was there anything in particular that anybody noticed in that particular minutes of those meetings, October 13th, that they would like to correct, or can we move adoption of those?
I just had one small little thing under actionable resolutions.
Okay.
And it says sharing the recording of the session with Bruce Blackwell.
Is that in the action items or the minutes, Councillor?
Oh, sorry, I'm in the action items. The minutes.
It's okay. So we're just going to adopt the minutes. Okay.
So Councillor Fast, you're moving adoption of the minutes?
I was seconding. I think I heard Councillor Morse moving.
Right. Okay, move Councillor Morse, seconded Councillor Fast. All those in favour? Motion is adopted.
Okay.
Number 3, public comments. I don't see any of the members of the public present.
No
Were
public.
there any Stephanie, do you have anything in that motion?
No.
That item, I mean. Okay, let's talk about the action items. Review of the
So would you like me to
items.
share a screen for that?
Sure.
Okay.
This is going to be somewhat difficult because of the changeover
I
from
think we'll have some
Jennifer
fun deleting
Jen to Christie.
things.
Christie, can you remind me when you started?
I started June 1st.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think I saw you through the glass at one point when I came into the office, maybe the first time since the pandemic. So
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, can I raise a sort of point of, I don't know if it's order or clarification? Is
Sure.
the list called current projects part of the action items? I'm not quite sure.
Are you speaking in the, oh yes, in the agenda item? Is
There's
that
an
up to
action
date?
items from previous meeting, which is page 7.
Yeah,
And then there's all sorts of stuff from page 8 to page 13.
So I think
And
the
I
current
don't-
projects is the staff update. And the
That's
action-
staff update. Okay, because I was feeling a little sorry for Daniel having to sit through all of that. So where's
No.
staff update?
We'll just whiz through these action items and then we can have Daniel
Okay,
perform.
all we're dealing with is what's on page 7.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
one page, just one page.
Thank you.
okay.
Okay, do you want me to do it, Bill, or?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay, shared draft Bowen Island Coastal FireSmart brochure. I'm gonna say done. What do you think? Done.
I
Done.
think you all got it. I've got it.
Yeah,
Somewhere.
climate action strategy has been adopted. Done. The wildfire protection plan to me to go to the environment committee. Done. Have date of adoption and authorship added to the EOC after action report. I do not know, so I'm gonna leave that on. Provide updates to the committee regarding completion of status COVID EOC after action report. Maybe Liam, we can refer to that when we talk about COVID. Yeah.
Sure.
I don't know about number 3, about the date of the adoption. I'll leave that on.
I can, yeah, I can't really speak to that, but I can certainly find out from Tess.
Yeah, we'll let you follow up on some of these once you've
Okay.
got more comfortable with this.
What I was getting at with that one was we should, with all the reports and plans that are on the website, say when they were adopted so people know
Yeah.
how current they are.
Yeah,
Like something that was adopted 10 years ago is very different from something that's adopted yesterday.
sure.
Okay.
Okay, I'll leave this number 4, public education, to you, Christie. We can talk about that offline. Bruce Blackwell recording, that's,
That's the
Bill,
one I
did
was
you-
commenting on. I think it should say council in front of session because it wasn't a session with us, it was a council session. The recording of the council session.
okay. And Bill, did you get that?
Yes, I do. I agree.
So I'm just gonna correct it and then delete it. Yes.
Okay.
Look at this, people.
Oh, that's why your
Uh,
numbering's funny because you're deleting and it's renumbering.
Oh, I know, it's so confusing. Staff contact BC Hydro regarding fire awareness in the context of tree trimming and clearing.
I
Christie, I'll
know
leave
Bonnie
that.
was wandering around with them before they did it this summer.
Okay, maybe just,
Yeah, I know Bonnie has that point of contact with Hydro.
and she talked about fire.
Yeah.
Delete.
And BC Hydro has been out doing that tree trimming along the highway, as far as I remember, this summer.
This idea about the elected officials training being included.
That's in your resolution information items, so I assume.
Yes,
it's
we don't
been-
have a specific staff member on that.
No,
I'm
no,
gonna
there
leave
was-
that on for future.
No,
discussion.
there's nothing to do with a staff member. It's happened.
It did
Oh, has
happen.
it?
The program executive committee recommend that resolution went to council and council adopted the resolution. It's in one of your attachments. So I assume staff would have then sent it off to the LGMA. So it's off our list.
Correct, on somebody else's list.
Okay, look at this. Work with the fire chief and council clerk to update the fire prevention bylaws. So I think that got
In
shelved and
progress.
staff changed over. In progress, okay? And this is Bishop's Hill. I'm gonna leave that one alone.
Do we know anything about that, Liam?
I don't know that Lee knows about Bishop's Hill yet.
That's the piece of the. go
Oh
ahead.
no, I know about Bishop's Hill. It was in use last Friday, not this Friday, just past the Friday before,
Okay.
during that storm event, because a power line went down and closed off Cowan Point Road.
You get to drive up it?
But we didn't Pardon me?
Did you get to actually drive up it so you know the
Oh,
state of what
oh.
it's in?
I've
After
driven it
all?
a couple of times just for kicks, but I didn't get to drive through. I didn't need to on that Friday. I got home just in the nick of time. But we have not done a cost estimate of that. Just anecdotally, I spoke with Bob Robertson about it, and his take was that it's not worth the cost because it's quite expensive. But I haven't got we haven't done a formal cost estimate.
Is that something we could ask Patrick's group to do? Just a ballpark figure?
We could, yeah, we could. I mean, Bob, I think Robertson's probably got as good a handle on. He didn't give me a ballpark figure other than to just say it's not worth it. So I can follow up on that.
Can I just ask what was the idea we were doing this? I've forgotten.
Oh, just that it's an alternative route for emergencies.
Yeah.
And the road is quite in rough shape, and not all cars could travel it. And so the idea was, well, if we could improve the condition, then it would be a viable emergency exit or access
To Con Point.
To Cowan Point, yeah.
To the golf course area, for example.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I think it would be good to know that in case we get at some point to looking at the emergency access to that part of the island again. Christie, do you have an opinion?
I've written on here that I need to go for a drive and have a look.
Okay.
Because I haven't actually been up there. So
Bill?
It's a shortcut that is very difficult to drive. I drove it once myself.
Hey, Bill,
Sorry?
it's Sue Ellen here. I'm wondering if I can say something.
Sure. Sorry, I was looking the other way.
I'm just suggesting that before we go and get dollar amounts and things like that, we might create expectations in the community. And this is a pretty divisive issue that maybe before we get costs, somebody should look at the evacuation plan, consider the fact that it was in use as recently as a week and a half ago, and think about whether this action item needs to stay there.
Okay, I think I can comment on that if you like. I think that's a good idea, first of all. I think we should go back and look at the emergency plan, just check the access routes that we do have in there. And somebody, maybe Aaron, for example, could drive through there and just satisfy himself that that's an accessible route for as is, and we don't need to do anything with it. That it can be, it has been used last couple of weeks, I gather, and if we can satisfy ourselves that that's good enough for going forward, I would just take it off of here for now, because it could raise expectations, and if it works as is and everybody's happy with that, then let's just leave it.
Yeah, you basically, you would struggle with a low, like my EV Golf, my electric Golf would probably be fine, but perhaps bottom out. But it'll ding the battery casing or something, right? But if most people on Bowen have pretty good vehicles, like that, like my Subaru, no problem, right? But it's not the nicest road, that's for sure.
Yeah, as long as it works for most people, and I think most people will be able to travel it. But Aaron, maybe you could check it out and let us know.
I'll have a look at it, and especially from an emergency vehicle.
Mr. Chair. Go ahead, Aaron.
Well, I was just going to say, I'll have a look at it and confirm from an emergency vehicle point of view. That's what's obviously most important to me. But I'll see what else is, what I think it's usable by.
Thank you, Councillor Morse.
Well, I would. What's the number ended up being? Which one are we talking about?
Number 2.
Number 2 under carried over from previous meetings.
Yes.
I would like to leave it there in some form, and maybe rather that council direct public works staff to report back with a cost estimate, that the committee recommend that staff continue to investigate the usefulness of Bishop's Hill as an alternate emergency access. People that know how to drive, even if they're low slung cars, can get up that hill.
Yeah.
Alan got up in the BMW with no trouble, but we've got X drive, so it's got all-wheel drive. But our neighbor who has all-wheel drive in an Acura couldn't get up it. So it entirely depends on, and then I really, having been with, having the power outage and everything last week, brought to my mind a lot of concern about one way in and one way out, and the rockfall in Taylor Road the other day. So, if the tree had come down and the ambulance had to get down here for a heart attack, could it make it up that hill, or the fire department? And then the other issue is, if the tree had come down water side of Salal, how would the ambulance have gotten down? And that sort of stuff. So I think it's a bigger issue than just this, but I'd like to just leave that there as change it just to say continue to investigate the feasibility of Bishop's Hill as an emergency access.
Is that wording acceptable as an
I have
amendment?
that wording, and then I've also just put little note that Christie's going to check out the evacuation plan and Aaron's going to drive it.
Okay.
So can I, sorry, is this the same, is Bishop still the same as like Cowan Road, the gate?
Old Cowan
Yeah.
Road.
Yeah.
Okay, so I did go there the other day and I checked it out. I actually walked the entire length of it. There's, some potholes here and there. I feel like those could be filled. I mean, it's a little bit steep going up, but yeah, I think it's totally drivable. And we've also established, just so everyone's aware, a plan within the neighborhood that there's going to be a key for that gate available to residents in the mailbox, should it be required in the event of an emergency. So it's going to be under the care of the NERP coordinator in that area. But so there will be accessibility if for some reason Public Works or other responders can't get to that area. Residents will be able to open that gate if they need to utilize that road as well. And again, to me, the road seemed totally dry. I wouldn't drive it every day, but in the event of an emergency, certainly it could be used.
Okay, that's good. The mailbox you're talking to, the general mailbox is on the
The mailbox is it's actually Peter's, Peter King's mailbox.
Okay.
Sort of right at the bottom there of or the top of Cowan Road. It's a big green mailbox.
Well,
Okay.
that's useless if the tree goes down and we're in the other side and can't go and get it.
Can I suggest that we move this to a next meeting's agenda? Because it's turning into a big discussion and we've got Daniel waiting. And also, it sounds like there's been quite a bit of work done already by Christie, and there's new info coming out now. So maybe we could just leave it for now, is my suggestion.
Okay, I'm happy with that. Do we want to change the wording of this or just leave it as is?
Can we just change it to continue to investigate the feasibility of Bishop's Hill access as in emergency purposes, and then it's still on the list?
I think that would be better. It's more general and it gives us more scope. Is everybody agreed with that? Yes, okay. Okay, let's change it then to just what you said, Alison. Stephanie, did you get that?
Got it. Yep.
Okay. Sorry, a bit informal there, but we need to move on, I think. That was, okay, what about the ongoing items? We decided to leave those? No,
I think the ongoing ones we can move on. Daniel,
they're quite general.
include FireSmart in all things, please.
Okay.
Actually, the ADP will be meeting to talk about Suncom design guidelines, so this is good that it came up. Make sure it's FireSmart.
Okay.
And then Alison, I think this is ongoing.
I'm just plodding away
Okay.
slowly.
Let's move on to item 5 then, council referrals, hazardous area, development permit areas. Daniel, would you like to
Thank you. Yes.
illuminate on that?
Let me, I have a presentation. Oh, no, I just lost you. Share screen. All right. How is that? Can you see okay?
Yeah. Good.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. So I have a council referral for a proposed hazardous areas development permit area. So just by way of background, this has been a council priority for a number of years, some variation of a hazardous areas development permit area. And most recently, so last fall, council approved a work plan to develop a set of bylaws for a hazardous areas development permit area and a site alteration bylaw. And so the work plan identified these initial steps, so gathering spatial data, establish areas of high vulnerability to hazards, and define what would trigger an application of a development permit. So in July, we presented to council our initial report on these first 3 steps. And then this is, so in March, prior to that, what we had done is we had sought funding and then hired a PhD candidate from UBC to conduct analysis from us. And so we had presented his draft report at the July council meeting. So his report goes into great detail in the geotechnical analysis and what he'd done, and looked at historic data on BC, or on Bowen Island in particular, and what are common hazards in our type of typology, as well as Bowen specific information. In essence, he identified 4 different common hazard types on Bowen. So flooding from lakes and wetlands, stream erosion and flooding, landslides, so different types of landslides, shallow debris flow, rockfall, and then coastal erosion and flooding. And for each of those, he had looked at best practice and analysis in terms of what are appropriate setbacks from those hazard areas. And so how far back the development permit should be. So 7.5 from lakes and wetlands, 15 from streams. The landslide varied based on slope. So he looked at combination, trying to look at soil depth and also rainfall to identify based on steepness, was it a moderate or a high hazard at risk of landslide? And then final coastal erosion and flooding. And so for that, he'd looked at an elevated sea level. So thinking about climate change and sea level rise and an elevated sea level, and then a setback from that new elevated sea level. So in essence, what we had come up with is a map that looked like this, so showing the 4 different development permit areas. So lakes and wetlands, streams, steep slopes, and coastal areas. So in essence, if your property would be highlighted in this map, then you would be triggered for the need for a development permit to do development. I'll show you just, it's a little hard on the screen. So this is like the insert that he showed in the Snug Cove area. So you can see how it play out in the air. And I mean, in this case, Snug Cove is one of the most low-lying areas on Bowen. So it's the one that would be most probably impacted by that coastal area within it. And thinking about coastal erosion. Or this is close to Killarney Lake. So this is in Crippin Park. Again, this is showing more where the steep slopes end up, identified as hazard areas. And then the next piece that Mike had looked at and we looked at together was what would be triggers. So what kind of development would then require a development permit? So it's normally looking at, structures, new construction, altering grade, or removing trees. So he identified some that would be consistent across all the development permit areas. And then looking at what development would be specific in those different hazard areas. So lakes and wetlands, we'd be looking at things that alter the water table. So, ditching, if you're diverting where the water is going around a lake or a wetland, that would require a development permit. Or stream and erosion, flooding areas, you're removing vegetation, you're altering the bank, or you're building structures again. Coastal erosion, flooding, thinking about vegetation removal, are you increasing the risk of erosion? And again, steep slopes, hazard areas, again, some different triggers for that piece of it. So that was kind of my 5-second overview of it. In terms of next steps, what council has done is they've asked us to refer it to committees. So we went in July, we're going to committees such as this one. We're planning a series of open houses in November. So not knowing kind of what status of COVID we'll be at, we'll plan in person and we'll plan virtual, and hopefully be able to offer both and give people a variety of different ways to participate. And then we would be returning to council probably in the new year with recommendations based on the feedback. And at that point, be drafting the actual bylaws that would amend the land use bylaw and the official community plan to enact this bylaw. And at that point, we'd be seeking referrals again to committees with the actual wording of what's going to go in the bylaw, what are the exact thresholds. But at this point, we're looking for that general feedback on, overall, does this feel right to you? Does it seem like we've identified hazards correctly? Is this are these triggers correct? Is this, sort of ground truthing it? Is this what the emergency committee thinks, or other committees? All right, so I'll go back. I don't know what's best for you, Bill. I can go back to the map overall, or I can turn the screen sharing off and we can have a discussion.
Thanks, Daniel. I did read the report back in June.
Yeah.
That Mr. Hurley, I think that's his name, produced.
Yeah.
And I thought it was quite a general report. And I wondered two things. What drove us to come to this point, to work, to need this or to do this? What was the background? What's the backstory on this, on the need for this? And secondly, how is it going to work? Do I go to that map? If I'm going to build a house, do I go to the map and general as it is and determine if I have to make a development permit application? Then do I hire a consultant to do more specific site-specific studies to see if I have a stream erosion problem or a rockfall problem, or how is it intended that this would be applied and work when it goes forward?
Sure. I mean, those are great questions. So when we did the OCP in 2011, it had identified a steep slopes area.
Right, I remember.
So we had initial mapping done at that point, and an initial bylaw that wasn't adopted by council in 2011.
Yeah.
And I mean, Sue Ellen and Alison can correct me, but my understanding is it's largely been, like my entire time here, it's been on council's strategic plan, is that this is still a identified gap in our regulatory scheme, and that that would be a bylaws in a development permit area that it's sort of the municipality's intention to work towards. In part because some of the areas that we sort of capture that I see in regular sort of development controls is like when you're go to build a house now, the building inspector has the authority to require a geotechnical analysis if based on their determination it's not safe. But what we don't have is any of the steps preceding that. So if somebody is in a steep slope area and they are putting in a driveway and they're doing extensive land clearing and all the stuff that leads up to the building, they can do without regulation, without oversight, without like an engineer's sign off. And then when they come to get the building, well, the building itself, we can require that it be geotechnical engineer review it. But the work done up to then, or the work done maybe at subdivision time, or any of those stages aren't required. In terms of how it worked in practice, it would work similarly to, we currently have a development permit area for watersheds and stream protection. So we have the mapping available on our online map, so BOMAP. So anybody can go and look at the mapping themselves on their property and see if they're in a development permit area. And absent that, it would be probably a time of building permit or excavation permit when people first come to us and apply, is that it's part of our check is to check if it's in a development permit area. And if so, it's informing them, okay, what they need to do, the development permit before they start with the other work.
Thank you, Daniel. That's a very good backstory and also a good explanation of how it would be used in the future. And I totally agree. I've worked a lot in erosion control on sites, and that's a very important part of maintaining the stability of a development area. No question. So I think it's a good plan. What do you think council is expecting in the way of feedback? Maybe the councillors could answer that question better. I don't know. What are they looking for? Because it's a wide open subject.
think Alison has her hand up anyways.
Sorry.
Yeah, I guess
Go ahead, Alison.
part of my concern, I certainly agree in the area of somebody's going to do some clear cutting and cause downstream runoff issues or things like that. You know, remembering years ago when they clear cut the upper Chartwell lands and the mess that caused in the lower part of 21st Street in West Van. But so I had sort of thought, you know, we looked at something which is called a steep slopes bylaw a number of years ago. And my problem with the whole thing is just because it's steep, and Daniel keeps using the word steep, doesn't make it hazardous. So where's the ground truthing going to happen to determine if it's hazardous? And we were also talking about a soil removal or type of bylaw, and maybe that's, so I think there's still a lot of, you know, just because somebody cuts down a tree isn't going to cause a landslide. So there's still a lot of ground truthing, I guess, that needs to be done. Otherwise, it becomes very much a make work type of project.
Thank you. Councillor Fast.
Thank you. Without turning this into a council debate, you know, there's different views on council, and I don't want to get into all that here, except to say that we did have a hazard and vulnerabilities assessment report done, and
Yep.
And we've adopted that, and rockfall and some of the main vulnerabilities in there are things that this bylaw, the development permit area bylaw, or the regulations to protect the safety of citizens and of landscapes and of infrastructure like roads it would give staff and the municipality some tools to make sure that those kinds of safety weren't compromised. And so some, you know, some people, some councillors, some homeowners think of it as red tape or more regulations. Some other councillors like me think of it as something that came from the community through that official community plan work. And I've heard from people who have, you know, rocks bouncing through their basement windows because a house is being constructed upstream, and of course bigger issues like the rockfall event that happened this weekend. So I see it as input that would be useful to this committee is what specifically should we be looking at as a community in terms of priority, or how's the best way to look at it and that kind of thing, not whether or not we should do it, because council's already asked staff to do this work and referred it out. So I will just offer that talking last week was trust council meetings, and talking to the San Juan Islands in the other side of the international border, they're starting to do a managed retreat of their roads from the coastline, because they're having roads being washed away by winter, you know, by extreme weather now with climate change. And I'm not suggesting that's what we need for Bowen, but I'm suggesting that's one way that other islands are feeling the effects of climate change, and they're actually moving ahead, whereas I feel like we're still kind of catching up with what are the hazards here now, and how do we address them so that the community and the infrastructure and people's safety isn't at risk. So that's my little piece. I'll stop now for a bit.
Okay, well, thank you. I don't want to get into council agenda items either. And I don't also want to get into the purview of the architects, whatever they call that committee. There's a few other committees that deal with sort of how to build houses and approval. I've gotten the name of the committees, but I don't want to get into their area of business either. I just want to think about it in terms of emergency management actions, and I'm still stuck at the connection between this and emergency management per se. I can understand how if a house is built or a property is developed and there's a rock fall, it creates an emergency situation for us if the road is blocked, for example, or if erosion causes a blockage or something like that. The fire truck can't get to it, for example. I can see us at the end where the outcome of not having something like this could affect the emergency management, emergency responses, if you like. I'm just not sure how can somebody help me as to how it comes into what aspect do we deal with as a committee?
How to avoid emergencies.
Okay.
Or an awareness thing of what the possible potential risks are.
Christie, do you have a point of view?
Yeah, I definitely, I mean, initially when I read the information, I did wonder how it was relevant to this particular committee. I thought it was more something for engineering or, that type of thing. That was my 2 cents on it, but I'm sort of just coming into this. So I'm not, that was just my initial reaction to reading the information.
What do you think, Aaron?
Yeah, I think anything that, we don't want to be in situations where roads are blocked due to construction from, stuff like that. But I'm not really sure if that's, again, if that's anything to do with this committee. It's sort of, again, as Christie said, I think it's works and engineering and that kind of thing.
And pre-approvals.
Yeah.
Yeah, pre-approvals and handling it at staff level to look at a development permit that would come in and determine the need for doing a study like this. So get a geotechnical engineer or environmental consultant to look at the landslide or erosion potential or flooding or whatever that could lead to an emergency for us to deal with. I'm at a loss as to where to go, actually. Councillor Fast.
Well, I'm wondering if this committee would want to just say something general, like we support the idea of developing a hazardous areas development permit areas that would reduce the numbers of emergencies or reduce risks and vulnerabilities for the community or something like that.
Yeah, or increase public safety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anybody got any comment? Sorry, go ahead.
Well, a motion could be something like that the emergency program, sorry, I've forgotten what we're called, executive committee.
EPEC,
Okay.
Yeah, supports in principle or supports, in principle, developing a hazardous areas development permit regulations that protect public safety. Is that what you said, Christie?
Yeah, I mean, along those guidelines.
Yeah.
Because it sort of seems to be a situation where we're working hand in hand with, engineering. So we're supporting them in going forward with this, but it doesn't really fall into this wheelhouse necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
Something like supports all measures, including this proposal, that will increase the increase awareness of public safety and, in fact, increase public safety, improve public safety.
You type something up?
Sorry, Councillor Fast.
Sorry, I've got, you guys are using a lot of synonyms, so several ways of saying the same thing, I think. I've got supports in principle developing regulations that protect public safety. And then I've got supports all measures. What did you say, Bill?
I would say all measures rather than leave it wider open, which can include obviously regulations. I don't want this committee to say regulations at this point. I think that's we
want to say measures. Okay, so
that's a council decision of whether they want to regulate it or not.
You know what? I'll do a little
all measures
screen share.
such as. Sorry.
Okay, just a sec.
Go ahead.
Just a moment, please.
So I would say support all measures such as this proposal, whatever it's called, which are designed to increase, improve public safety and emergency response. I mean, it's a motherhood statement, but because of course we do.
Well, it's good to get something on the record. That's good.
To increase public safety. Do I have that? I will,
And
the
emergency
more
response.
specific terms, names of the report.
Yeah, do we need
Yes.
all in there rather than just say that APEC supports measures, including this proposal, that increase public safety?
Comment?
I like that Bill had at the end and emergency response.
Yes.
Yeah.
Increase public safety and improve emergency response.
Yeah. So continue to improve.
Yeah.
Continue to improve.
I mean, the mapping is useful because it shows where there could be potential issues.
Yeah.
So it's of interest, the mapping is of interest to.
So I'll move that.
Okay. Could I have a seconder, please?
I'll second it.
Good. All those in favor? That motion is passed. I think that's as much, excuse me, I think that's as much as we can do in this, is to support the details by someone else or some other group. Daniel, that's the end of your presentation or the end of your
That's great.
participation?
Yeah, thank you very much.
You're free.
You're free to go.
You know what?
Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks, Daniel.
Excuse me, let me have a drink here. Steph, where are we?
Okay, so we're gonna move on to the FireSmart Home Partners Program that was, I think, initiated by Councillor Morse
Oh,
and
damn it.
supported by our
Have you
EPC.
got
Yes.
the thing I sent around? I sent around an email with a link to the
Do you want to give us some background to it, Alison?
well, it's just, I came across that link, and I can't find it now.
I can find the link. Sorry, I didn't include that. I think there were a few FireSmart.
Do you need me to send it to you, Steph?
Sure, thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, I read this a couple of times and it looked like a good program. But people are just beginning to sign up for it.
That was basically my question is it duplicating what we're already doing? Are we already involved in this program or?
Should I send the link around to folks or?
I think Christie is. But do
Well,
you
I
have it
sent it to
open?
Steph. I don't know, Steph can,
I sent it to everybody
Yeah.
to read it. Oh, there we, but I can't find. Here we go.
Okay.
Here we go.
I've
So,
got it open on my computer if you want to share it.
Can we do that?
you can,
No,
no,
just-
I'm,
It
Okay.
came from FireSmart BC, and it's called the Home Partners Program.
mhm. I can
Liam,
open
why
it,
don't-
Liam.
Liam, why don't you open it and then Councillor Morse could describe it.
Yes,
Okay.
That works.
I got it.
Okay.
there we go. Now scroll down a bit.
Okay.
It said which areas in BC are currently participating.
Mhm.
So we're doing home assessments and stuff, but we weren't listed there. So is this something different? Or there's a link you can go to get an assessment. So I
had a look at this, Alison.
yeah,
I did a little bit of investigation into it. So essentially there's just some parameters that you have to meet as a community in order to be part of this FireSmart Home Partners program. We already meet many of the parameters. The major one that we're missing is the wildfire plan, which is being worked on now. So potentially we could apply to be part of this program as soon as we have all of those parameters in place. And like I say, the major one being the wildfire plan that we're working on anyway.
okay. So if we qualified, do they come and do the assessments or do we still carry on the way we've been doing it?
Well, I think what happens is that it's more accessible to the public in that they can go onto the Home Partners website and put in their contact information and then request a FireSmart assessment. And then that probably, I don't I'm not 100% certain on this, but I'm assuming it gets forwarded to our fire department, who would then do the actual assessment. So it makes it a little bit easier for people to access the program. And there's, you know, if you look through the website, there's tons of information on the website around FireSmart and wildfire protection and stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of which we've already got linked on our list of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just sort of, I didn't know, you know, just you answered my question and that's fine. We can carry on to the next agenda item.
Oh, no, I wanted to hear Aaron's point of view on this.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that Christie said there. I would expect that once we're eligible to have our name on that list, the same thing, people would apply and then it would be forwarded to our local representatives. Our FireSmart.
So when you actually, oh, sorry to interrupt. Sorry, Chair.
Go ahead, Liam.
Bowen's already identified on the site. They have a map function where if you want to find a local FireSmart representative, and right now it probably needs to be updated because it has Ian Thompson identified, Jennifer McGowan, and Marissa Bacos. So we just probably need to update our representatives with them, and because I know that Aaron and his team do wildfire or FireSmart assessments of homes and such, and so
yeah. Okay, I can do that. I'll contact them and update the information. And yeah, I mean, it's basically just a clout thing. Like it's, you know, a lot of just to say we are a community that is participating in this, and you know, it makes the municipality look engaged, and well, we are engaged. It increases the engagement of the municipality.
And it might help with our grant applications.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Does it cost us any money?
No. The components cost money, but we have money for the components from grants anyway. So no, I think I'll put the application together once the wildfire plan has been completed. And then it should be just administrative, easy, put it together, submit it, and will be included in their organization.
Christie, do you know if it imposes any obligations on us that we might be concerned about? I mean,
I think it's like I say, you just have to keep those parameters in place, like to make sure that you have all of those boxes ticked off from year to year. So then if we lost one of those boxes, then we would not necessarily be part of the program anymore. But I think we know what they are offering and requiring anyway. So.
Okay. So is the committee in favor of this? Has anybody got any objection to continuing with this application? Okay. That's, do we have a motion to go along with this, or is that required? Stephanie?
I don't think we need a motion, do we?
It's not required, but it's fun.
We might, it maybe just support what Christie's doing in terms of what council sees Christie's doing, that we support it. I think that might be the only reason.
Okay, just say that the committee supports staff applying to
continuing to investigate being part of the FireSmart Home Partners program.
Okay.
And to apply when it recommends that we apply when appropriate, or when we're able to.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds good.
Mover.
Bill moved.
Councillor Morse, seconded by Aaron, Fire Chief. Okay. Next item. This is interesting. I'm looking forward to this. Item number 7.1.
Now we're getting interesting.
You drive by it every day.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I see a lot of it. It's moving along.
We're starting to see some good progress now. I think probably everyone has driven by. The concrete walls are all poured now. The backfill has started. What they've done is enough backfill to get their steel structure up. That's the most important thing to them right now. Yeah. Steel work is actually starting today, and they're placing some of the steel in areas they're going to reuse it, and they'll actually start erecting that steel this week. The plan is to have the steel structure complete by the end of October. And they are on schedule to complete in March, is what they're telling me. So at this stage, I have to.
That's a lot. That's a lot that has to happen between now and March.
Yeah,
but it should go up quickly, right? Like
that's what they're telling me, is that because it took them a long time to get to this stage, and but they felt they had enough of a buffer built in that they're still fine to complete in March. So at this point, I'm going to have to believe them. And it looks like they're making good progress now. So,
do they have enough materials available or on site, etc., for close-in?
all that's on site currently is just the steel structure.
And then, so closing it in, or is that the term I would use? That's the next date, and that's the next milestone, isn't it? To be able to work more in the winter time.
Exactly. Once they start using up some of the existing steel on site, then the next deliveries will happen for close-in roof materials, that type of thing. So.
Okay, excellent.
That's all in hand somewhere on the lower mainland. I mean, it's not having to be shipped from a supplier.
No, everything, and they give me quite often. I get updates every couple of weeks regarding materials that they've ordered and things like that. So they've actually in storage. They've even got things like finishing materials and plumbing fixtures and things like that. So they understand the concerns with the supply chain, and they're making moves to make sure that they're not going to be held up by anything in that regard, which is really good to hear.
And am I right in thinking you manage the project? You're managing it?
Well, it's
Overseeing.
Yeah, overseeing would be, I guess, a better word. Yeah.
Well, that's monitoring. Monitoring. Good word. Any questions for the fire chief? No. Good. Good report. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Christie, here we go for your first official update. Go for it.
Nervous.
Hey, you don't need to be nervous here. Come on.
I think that Steph sent out the current projects document, I believe.
Do you want me to share it or just?
Yeah, sure. If you want to.
want that?
Please.
Okay.
The first item is the 2020 generator grant. So Aaron received a generator. Yay! It was a long time coming due to the final report.
One at the fire hall that we can see in the parking lot.
Yes.
Okay, I answered himself's question correctly then.
Yes.
I know who himself is.
The
You
final
know who
report.
himself is, Ben.
I know what you're talking about, Alison.
Okay, so the final report is ready for that. It's going to go to the CFO, McCutcheon. She's got to just look at the numbers, and then it's going to be to UBCM, and then we should get our $25,000 grant that that we allocated for the generator. And then in association with that was the next item, which is the EOC ESS training day. We had $5,000 that we were required to spend on training. So we are doing that on October 20th. I think we talk about it a little bit more in depth in another item. Is that right, Steph? No?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
But I think, no, you can actually do it now.
Just do it now? Okay. Yeah, I'll just give you high level. So it's in conjunction with NSEM, Mike Andrews, who's one of the EPCs over there, is going to be coming to Bowen and doing an EOC refresher for all the EOC staff on the morning of October 20th. And
what is an NSEM?
Oh, sorry, North Shore Emergency Management.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So he's going to come over in the morning. We're going to talk about EOC roles and responsibilities and just go over that with everybody who's currently would potentially be part of an EOC and an activation. The afternoon is then going to be run by a consulting company called Get Set Solutions, and they are running a tabletop exercise around a 6.8 magnitude earthquake that strikes the region. And we're going to be talking about, how that may impact Bowen, specifically what types of challenges that we might face, and kind of get an idea as to how that EOC activation would look. And so we've got some external stakeholders coming, RCMP, BC Ambulance, obviously fire, Transit has been invited. BC Ferries has been invited. Who else? Just anyone really that has, any kind of involvement with the island. I've sent out invitations. So we're anticipating between probably 40 to 50 attendees. The ESS volunteers have also been invited, as well as.
I'm just in a meeting now.
Turn your mic off, Steph.
No, it's not me. It's
I
Bonnie.
think it's fine.
Hi, Bonnie.
Go ahead. This is October the 20th.
Yeah, October the 20th. So 40 to 50 people in attendance, including some ESS volunteers and the NERP zone coordinators as well have been invited.
Is this a Zoom type meeting?
No, this is going to be in person. Obviously within COVID guidelines, we're going to be hopefully getting Kate's Hill Chapel, and we'll be able to accommodate that number of people and social distancing, etc.
Okay. Is there
It's
any?
It's too hard to facilitate via Zoom with that number of people.
I've been to a meeting where you could actually do both. We had an AGM recently for another organization that we had people on site and we had people on Zoom. Just a thought that we were able to combine the two because the presenters were essentially working from a podium, or that could be Zoomed, and those people, such as myself, who were on the mainland, could participate, but not in person. I don't know if that's possible.
No, I definitely thought about that. It crossed my mind. We do have a couple of people who are, more cautious about COVID and maybe wouldn't be comfortable in that situation. So that definitely was on my radar to maybe set up some kind of AV system and get people participating via Zoom if that's what they preferred as well.
If you do that, count me in.
Okay. Sounds good.
Other people here?
Are we invited?
I think you're invited.
Looking at, so right now we can only accommodate a certain number of people. And so I'm waiting to hear back from people. I'm still, waiting on RSVPs, but I feel like if there is openings, then it will be opened to others as well.
Okay.
Good. That was that Operation Rattler?
That's Operation Rattler. Yeah.
How on earth did we get that name? It seems to conjure up rattlesnakes on Bowen Island.
No, rattle all your dishes in your cover.
We should have called it Operation Gardner.
Okay.
Next time.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah. So that was not my name, by the way. It was Get Set Solutions decided that. So.
Okay.
Yeah, anyway, so that should take care of our $5,000 training obligation that we have in order to finish up our report for the grant and get the money.
Christie, let me ask Aaron a question. Aaron, when do you see the EOC being the new building being operable?
Well, they're telling us end of March it will be operable.
Okay.
So at this point, that's I'm sticking with that.
Okay. So, Christie, this is something that you can think about in your presentation, in your Operation Rattler, that, we will have to move into that building and how we operate. I guess it's all this part. Anyway, you're in charge. Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. And if anything, I feel like it's going to make it easier actually to have our primary EOC there and all of our supplies there and stuff like that. So it's actually going to, from a logistics point of view, it is going to make things more streamlined. Rather than right now, we've kind of got these two pseudo EOCs. When the fire is ready, we're going to have, actual primary EOC that we're going to be able to operate from in a building that we know is structurally sound and that is, going to be accessible, hopefully, to most people.
It will be. Go ahead. Liam.
I was just going to say the building is likely to be, scheduled to complete construction by the end of March, but it won't necessarily be fully up and ready to go, so to speak, right? Because we have to transition by moving in and all of those types of things. So the likelihood that the EOC will be up and running by the end of March, I think, is low, but rather that if they meet their building construction schedule, then it'd likely be, you know, April, May when we actually have the facility functioning. So,
So we'll target June.
yeah,
Yeah,
there you go.
there you go. Christie, any more items on your, was that for
Yes.
Operation Rattler?
Not for Operation Rattler, no, not unless anybody has any questions.
No. Anybody got any questions on
No.
that subject? Okay, go ahead, Christie.
Okay, so the next item agenda is, as you know, we received a UBCM grant also for the purchase of a repeater to be installed on the top of Mount Gardner to improve our communications here on Bowen Island. Just due to topography, we tend to have, you know, dead zones within the radio network. So in doing this, we've sort of started having discussions around how much more it would cost to digitize the communications network on Bowen Island. Most municipalities are moving towards digital, or any kind of response organizations are moving towards digital communications at this point. Analog is going to be fairly antiquated going forward. So we're anticipating that Bowen Island is going to have to move to a digitized radio network within the next 5 to 10 years anyway. And so, you know, we're throwing around the idea of, is it worth spending money on an analog repeater, or should we just go ahead and buy a digital repeater, which then would require the purchase of digital radio equipment to go along with it. So then, you know, we've got this option. It basically doubles, I think, the cost of the project. So Bruce Steele, who's our communications guy, is looking into this. He has a connection who does this for a living and is basically going to be providing exactly what it would entail. It seems like it's pretty simple, and, you know, the process itself, it's just basically a numbers game. So I've asked Bruce for those numbers and to see if it's going to be in any way feasible for us to do this, or if we just stick to plan A, which is to get the analog repeater, which will improve communications regardless. But we just might have to improve the radio networks in the next decade anyway.
Can I just ask so who uses the repeater? Does the fire department use it for their equipment to talk to one another when they're on site, on a you know, fire site or on the way to,
Yes.
or is
Yes.
it the emergency radio group if we had an emergency?
No, it's the actual responders that are using the repeater. So it's fire department and public works also would be benefiting from that repeater. Yeah, so it's, well, and if we went digital, it would also depend, like if the Bears community, which is just the animal,
I was thinking.
yeah, if they would have to have digital radio equipment, but then they could also communicate with each other on an analog system, like their own frequencies, but it just wouldn't be municipal.
Councillor Fast.
Just my two bits. If it seems to me like if we're talking about upgrading or updating any kind of equipment, that to move to digital would be the way to go. Because I think we'd just be doing that eventually, unless there's a reason for keeping analog radio for emergency response as opposed to a volunteer group.
Yeah, no, there's really no benefit over the digitized system. It's actually even cheaper in the long run.
Yeah,
to use a digital system as well.
Well, and it seems to me like that would be the way to go. I don't know if a recommendation from our group would help with that, or should we keep an eye out for funding for you? Or
yeah, absolutely. Like I said, well, in my notes here, I said I met with Maureen Nicholson and discussed trying to find money to facilitate a switch. And then she wanted a business case that could be put forward to the resiliency fund to see if maybe, because we're talking about, you know, as is the generator project, or sorry, the repeater project is going to be around $25,000. And then we're anticipating with the digital radio equipment, it to be about 50. So we're looking for about $25,000.
And how much is the grant we got?
25.
5,000.
Fine. So it's a drop in the bucket to the cost of even upgrading the analog bit.
Yeah, I mean, upgrading the analog would be covered, right? But
Oh, I thought you said it was a $5,000 grant.
no, 25.
Oh, 25, okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah. How long do we have to spend that grant?
We have a year, although they have been very generous just due to COVID and supply issues and stuff like that with extensions. So it's possible we could get it extended if we needed to.
And the resiliency fund is the community foundation fund?
Yes.
So, okay. There are a couple more items on your list there, but I think we would like to transport that particular one if we could through this committee. Would that be something the committee would like to do, to have some sort of a motion of support for this repeater station to be digitized if possible?
I think I'm hearing the wording of a motion there, Bill. I think it would be great if I move that EPEC express its support for the digitalization of, sorry, what's the project called? The digital
Repeater project?
purchase of a digital repeater.
The Mount Gardner repeater project.
Mount
Yeah.
Gardner repeater project.
Thank you. And request staff, I guess we can't.
You direct staff.
That's enough. Just
That EPEC
Yes.
for
Speak of funds.
digitizing the Mount Gardner repeater.
yeah, that's what I said. Put a period at the end. And then we just leave it up to Christie to find more funds, and we've got staff here, right? So we don't have to put in the details. Obviously, you've gone already to Councillor Nicholson. So is that helpful? Or
Yes,
could
I
it
think
be-
that I would maybe just like to add and to seek whatever additional funding insofar as is possible to show the financial responsibility of it. But that would be good.
Grant funding?
I accept that as a friendly amendment, and to seek additional funding as feasible. Something
Yep.
like that, Bill, whatever you said.
Something like that's good.
That's
Stephanie,
great. I
whatever.
moved that. Yeah.
Stephanie, you got it?
That the committee support the digitalization of the Mount Gardner repeater project and
Continue to pursue additional funding as possible.
to pursue additional funding where possible. Okay.
Good. That's moved by Councillor Fast. Is there a seconder?
Second,
Seconded by Councillor Morse. All those in favour?
aye.
Motion passed.
Can I just say something?
Sure.
Bill, thanks, everybody. This is great. And I just want to observe that the structure of this committee is funny in that we don't have enough people. We've got a couple of municipal elected councillors, and we've got the rest of us mostly staff, except for you, Bill, who are trying to chair the meeting. So it leaves it up to us municipal councillors to move and second motions and come up with motions, which is kind of like a council. It shouldn't be council doing that. So I just support the idea of thinking about who else do we need on this committee, or what kind of different structure could it have? But that's just my comment, observation.
Well, I would comment that you councillors are very well used to doing this, and it makes it efficient. So there you go. Compliment to you. Was there anything else on the list, Christie, there? But that, because we're running at 12:10, or people are probably getting antsy for lunch.
Okay.
Oh, no, we're not supposed to end till 1 o'clock.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so I'll just try and go through these quickly. Cooling center. So we have,
On a separate item for that. Why don't we skip it till we get to that?
No,
Okay.
it's part of our update.
Oh, well, don't we have a whole
It's just,
report?
I just attached a document.
I'd like to have Christie continue on with her report.
Yes, please.
so go ahead with the cooling center or no? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Mm. So cooling center IRG has been created. The
What is an IRG?
initial response guideline.
Thank you.
And so we had to open a couple of cooling centers this summer, you know, due to the extreme heat issues that we were having. They were not very well attended. I don't even know. I think maybe there was one person that came in and they tried to use the washroom. Like it just, there was nobody really down there, you know, actually trying to get reprieve from the heat. We had to do this at the annex beside the library. It's the only air conditioned place on Bowen. And then of course we have to man it with staff and keep it open sort of extra hours. So those were considerations. Yeah.
Christie, I just want to acknowledge though that we didn't have any cooling facility during the extreme heat event.
Right.
That we only took this action after that extreme heat event.
Yes, that's true. So the heat dome in June, this is sort of what spearheaded everything, was the heat dome. And then as you are probably all aware, BC Ambulance had major challenges around that heat dome, and there was a lot of loss of life. So Vancouver Coastal Health then became sort of more proactive in their mandating of these cooling centers.
So just to clarify, sorry to interrupt, but so we actually got a directive from Vancouver Coastal Health that told us we had to open a cooling center?
Yes. So I'll clarify sort of my findings around that. But so what happens is when Environment Canada issues an extreme heat alert, Vancouver Coastal Health has it would trigger Vancouver Coastal Health to send out these directives once the heat hits a certain point. So my question was, and I emailed Vancouver Coastal Health about two things. A, as you said, Alison, are we mandated to do this? Or is this just a recommendation by Vancouver Coastal Health? And B, our temperatures vary greatly from the temperatures that are read at the airport, which is what they're going from. And so is there a way that Bowen Island within our own IRGs and policies and guidelines can have our own thresholds that we use based on our own temperatures, because everything varies regionally. So the response that I got from VCH was, good question. Nobody's ever asked those questions before. So nobody could actually answer my question as to whether or not we are mandated to open these centers or not. And then they said, we are currently reviewing our regional temperatures guidelines, because this thing has just kind of, exploded this summer. So we're going to be taking this season to look at those temperature thresholds and guidelines and come to some conclusions about how they're going to better manage this regionally.
Stay tuned, right?
Yeah, so stay tuned. They're going to get back to me, but basically they said, in the meantime, until you hear from us, then just continue to use the Environment Canada Coastal Health guidelines.
Okay, so, I mean, the response guide to me, now, was that a template they sent, or did you make that up?
I did this up with, I used a North Shore Emergency Management. They have their own IRG. So I used their IRG as a template when I created this for Bowen Island.
Okay, because, I mean, there's things in the template that we have no ability to control.
Does.
Well, just a sec here. Well, how do we monitor emergency call volumes? That's done by Econ. Do they regularly report to us on emergency call volumes?
Well, you could ask for that information if you require.
Did you ask? Do they actually give it to us?
They would.
Well, okay. But
I mean, Aaron can tell you call volumes of what he responded to. RCMP have their call volumes, whatever they responded to. So yeah, BC Ambulance, like that information is readily available if we wanted to go looking for it.
Well, it's in there as an action that you're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, that could be worked into because we're planning on reestablishing biannual meetings with the responders on the island. What was the name of the team, staff? Emergency response team, emergency response management team, I think, but it was disbanded in 2019. And it was basically just all the responders on the island, like fire and RCMP and everyone who's like operational response.
Oh, the emergency program management committee.
Yeah, emergency program management committee. So we're not doing a committee, but we are going to be having biannual meetings of the heads of these organizations. And that's something that we could definitely work into that meeting, like trying to get call volumes around incidents and stuff.
And it's also like important to note that in these extreme events, like after the heat dome, like we were also really curious to know what those call volumes were, and we'll want to better understand that. And I do also want to just say that, you know, I think this is a fantastic step in the right direction. In the Vancouver Coastal Health Region, they only identify 6 communities as delivering cooling centers, Bowen being one of them. And, you know, it's not to say that the other communities don't, but on the Vancouver Coastal Health website, we're listed as one of 6 that do.
Well, I guess what I'm just getting at, and I'll take it offline. The IRG is a very detailed document, and knowing that it came from a template from North Shore fits my suspicion. It's designed for organizations that are way bigger than we are.
Well, I edited the template. Like I wrote.
I've got lots of questions and concerns about it, but health is the responsibility of Vancouver Coastal Health. So they should be funding us to pay for the cooling centers. And
they would. EMBC actually, if we open a ticket, they'll pay for the cost of the cooling.
Well, that's very interesting because the top bullet on top of page 15 of our 32 of our agenda says costs associated with responding to extreme heat will not be covered from the provincial government.
Yeah, I don't know. That's something we might have to look at.
EMBC is an arm of the provincial government.
Yeah. So when Liam and I talked about this, like the cost associated with opening cooling centers, it was sort of ascertained that it was very little. You know, I mean, we were talking about 4 hours of staff time.
Library staff, yeah.
Yeah. The second time that we opened, we actually used volunteers, so it was $0 for that. So yeah, I mean, that's something that needs to be explored, I guess, if we had to open a cooling center for a prolonged amount of time. There is a possibility of getting funding through the government. So maybe that needs to be taken out.
There was a lot about the heat event and the impacts of it at UBCM. There was a whole session. That's the Union of BC Municipalities Convention that was last week, Bill. Or the week before, I guess. And it sounds like there's a lot of planning that has to suddenly take place because of all those deaths, and the cooling centers might need to happen overnight. That's when most people were, anyway, temperatures climbing, that kind of thing. So I'll just hand it back over.
Chair, if I may.
Go ahead, Ian.
And I mean, Alison does raise a really good point in that it's not clear if it is truly a directive to local governments. It certainly feels like downloading from the province to local governments. And we definitely are alive to that issue. And we're very on top of Vancouver Coastal in terms of trying to figure out what level of responsibility do we actually have of it as a municipality. But at the same time, we also just wanting to do the right thing. And so we will try to recover any costs that we incur through the EMBC, Emergency Management BC, and as we go until we, you know, and they have identified that for that extreme event, there was funding available. And so more clarity will come for sure. And we can refine things as we get a better understanding.
Yeah, and Alison, I welcome, like I did this up. I mean, it's a draft. I welcome your comments and your recommendations on what needs to be changed.
Okay, I'll talk to you. I was gonna just say I'll come and talk.
Do you want-
to you.
Do you want that to be an action item maybe, Christie, for people to
No.
provide comments?
No,
Well,
no,
maybe we can provide.
You don't want a
comments.
paper trail, Councillor?
Be in the list, yeah.
We
I
can do
wonder-
it just like off the record.
Yeah, I don't know if this committee would need to approve all the wonderful plans and things that
Yeah.
staff create, right? We don't want to run things. So I'm just making sure that you don't need this to be on an agenda for all of us.
No, I
Okay,
don't.
whoever would like to provide comments. can
Yeah,
provide
whoever wants to
comments.
provide comments, definitely feedback.
You're welcome.
The draft, we're waiting for clarification from Coastal Health and the government anyway, before we're going to publish this or make it, adopt it or whatever we do.
Okay, so this is just draft at this point? So I
Yeah,
should write
yeah.
draft on it?
Yeah,
Thanks, Christy. I'm sorry to keep interrupting, but this is just so great. We haven't had any input from an emergency program coordinator since, way
yeah,
back.
long
And
time.
so it's welcome aboard. Yes, this is good to see you're producing stuff.
In a year.
Great.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on quickly, evacuation information mail out, that was done. We had a lot of people asking when the fires were raging, we had a lot of people asking about evacuation and concerns around that. So we responded and we did send out the evacuation information mail out, which a lot of people were very appreciative about. There were some resident concerns regarding the plan, and they're being dealt with on an individual basis. So I had, for instance, King Edward Bay wanted some clarification on stuff. Valhalla, they've got some questions about things, but I've just been dealing with these people on a one-on-one. And if I need assistance, I go to Aaron and we figure it out. And that seems to have been, worked okay.
Good. Go ahead.
3 additional NERP kiosks. This is the NERP update. 3 additional NERP kiosks constructed. They've all been funded by the Community Foundation Resiliency Plan. So we're going to have 6 in total. They're beginning construction on Mount Gardner kiosk right now. And then just an update, phase 2 of the project is to enhance the kiosks with equipment as well. So it wouldn't just be an information hub, but then there would maybe be a solar panel on top, phone chargers, water tablets in a locked receptacle or whatever, however we decide to do that. I don't think they've got that far in the planning yet, but that is phase 2.
Can I ask you, Christy, where they are, where the 6 kiosks are? I know there's one at Eagle Cliff.
Yeah, there's one Ocean View and Miller. There's one being built on Mount Gardner. There's one Kate's Hill. They're doing I'm calling it a christening on Kate's Hill for the NERP kiosk. Just I'm pointing up here because I live on Kate's Hill, right at Kate's Hill Park. Where were the other one? Oh, there's one in Bowen Bay.
Eagle Cliff?
Eagle Cliff, Mount Gardner, Kate's Hill, Miller Road, or is that the Eagle Cliff one?
No, that's Miller.
Ocean View Miller.
I'd have to go get I'd have to look.
That's okay. That's okay. Don't worry.
But there is the event on Saturday, October 2nd, for the Kate's Hill one, where they're having a bit of a celebration for the
11
volunteers.
a.m.
Yeah.
Kate's Hill Park. Be there.
Be there.
No, I don't live in Kate's Hill.
Okay, good. Continue.
Bonnie wants
please.
to talk about parks. Bill.
You're muted.
Yeah.
Bonnie, do you want to talk about parks? Do you want to come in?
No, I
And,
just have a comment, if I
Go
may. Just we could work on getting the kiosks on the Bow map, which would maybe a good thing for the community as well.
Yeah. And they are all, the locations are all on the emergency program page on the website as well.
good.
So if that could be an action item, that'd be great. If it needs to
that?
be an action item.
Want them on
Adding
Bowman?
Get them on.
adding them to Bow map.
Yep.
Good idea.
Okay.
So
I like them being
Liam.
on the website.
Oh, I just again, like you, Chair, conscious of time, because
Yeah.
there is still quite a bit to get through, and we have 30 minutes.
Yeah, okay, I'm just gonna try and
Could
go through this really fast.
Skip to the naloxone thing then.
Yeah. Okay, so Coastal Response 2020, I'm going to be participating in that in conjunction with North Shore Emergency Management. I'm going to go out there for the day. I'm going to participate in their EOC and see how things shake out with that. ESS is also going to be sending some volunteers to participate in that as well. ESS, we had volunteers that were prepared to virtually deploy to fire centers this summer. I myself offered to deploy for a couple of days, and we didn't hear anything back, which it could have been that they were just busy. I don't know, but that's what is going on with ESS. Yeah, housing resources are low for ESS. So we're going to be trying to bolster our supply of emergency housing. We found this we did get an ESS call out during the storm recently, where 2 trees fell on a house in Blue Water, and the people initially thought they might need ESS support, and then it was declined and they went to go stay with somebody else. However, we did have a bit of trouble actually finding a place with availability. So that's something that Carolyn's going to be working on. I don't know.
Caroline, I noticed you mentioned Caroline there. Is that the new, I'm sorry, I've forgotten who Caroline is.
Carolyn, the ESS director.
I thought she'd resigned.
No.
Oh, no, I'm mixing it up here. Go ahead.
Okay.
Please explain.
I hope not. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so I don't know if we have to go through joint health and safety.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so naloxone, that was the big one. So
Just think, sorry, Christine, naloxone and the AED are both their own agenda items, so maybe pop
Oh,
past
okay.
those. And,
okay.
yeah, thank you. So
Yeah, and then I mean it's just what I've been doing, I guess. Written 3 articles for the undercurrent, an emergency preparedness article, a repeater article, and a tree health article.
Are those articles on our on the website? So somebody could read them that didn't happen to read them in the paper?
Oh, on the municipal website?
Yeah.
No, I don't think they are. Although I'll double check with Sophie. I don't know if she takes the things that we publish and makes them available, but I'll ask.
I'm thinking on on the emergency response section of the website.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
If they're not, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's look into the future here and just give us a quick summary there of the highlights there.
The plan.
Tasks.
Okay. So just so you guys know, I feel like this is important to mention, BOENS, the emergency notification system, that name is going to be phased out because we're using Alertable now. And so right now there's causing confusion because people don't know the difference between BOENS and Alertable. They're the same thing. So we're just going to use Alertable, which is the company that we are using for these alerts. That's what other municipalities are doing as well. Okay. Plan tasks. So update emergency.
Just before, I don't want to discuss this, but I do see that question under hours, 21 hours
yeah.
and 15 hours. Perhaps I could
This is
pass
probably,
that over to Liam.
Yeah, it's not really a committee.
okay.
No,
but
I'll let you handle that,
yeah,
Mr. Administrator.
Yeah, but
Sounds
certainly it's an issue across multiple departments.
If you need any support, let me know.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. So update emergency programs page on the Bowen Island website. ESS NERP appreciation events. We'll do a volunteer event, hopefully in person, maybe not. In December, we'll see how things shake out. And then this is where Alison, I put down the FireSmart partner. Yeah. 22 FireSmart grant application that has to be done by October 8th. So I'll be looking into that. And then also working with Liam on business continuity planning and staff. And and also the wildfire plan. So we have to put out a tender for the wildfire plan and then get that going as well. So those are sort of like the big future stuff that's coming up. So that is my report.
And can I leave it there unless there are any absolute, totally, really urgent questions? Because Christie's had the unenviable task of going through 1 year's of update of stuff. And I really appreciate you did a tremendous job there going through that and bringing us up to date. And I know in future it's going to be much shorter and it'll be, well, you know what I mean? Congratulations. Thank you for that. Good job.
Okay, yeah, and if anybody, I mean, read through this, and if you have any further questions, concerns, whatever, we can just talk about it. You can contact me.
Lots of important stuff. Stephanie, what's next?
So we're on AEDs, I think.
AED program. Okay, so we're running into some issues with the AED program in that when we established this program, there was really no limit, or there was no cap set as to how much the municipality was willing to spend going forward. As we know, the Rotary pays for the initial installation, the community pays for the AEDs, but then it kind of needs to be decided who's going to take on the cost. Like Aaron's been paying for the pad replacement. None of these things are cheap. So now we've got a total of 28 AEDs on island, which is fantastic. But when these things need maintenance, it needs to be paid for by someone. And right now it's the municipality paying for it. And the Rotary hasn't been told, you know, limit of X amount of AEDs that we're going to be responsible for paying for.
Are they well spread out across the island, so the island's reasonably well covered?
Well, I think the feedback that I'm getting is that people feel like some of them are sort of like clustered, and they could possibly be, you know, more spread out. Like areas of the island, like the Cove, have a ton of AEDs, and then other places like the South, you know, Cowan area,
We've got two.
Yeah, there's not a lot.
Where are the two? There's oh, sorry, but this is not the place for that.
Clubhouse and the Seventh Tee Box.
Alder Bay Beach has one.
Yeah, so there's three then.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask how much use they're getting? And because I would be prepared to move a motion that until we have a plan for funding their maintenance, that the project be temporarily paused.
Yeah, Aaron, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. We need to have a plan here before just allowing this to go sort of, you know, open-ended. We do need a plan.
Good. So I don't know if you caught that, Steph, but I move that.
I'll just say that.
Do we have a seconder?
I do.
Who is that? Christie?
Alison. I think it's Alison.
It's Alison.
We can't see your mouth, Alison, so we can't see you when you
You can
speak.
hear me.
We can just see you lighting up. the
All you
green.
have to do is say it was moved and seconded. You don't really need to know who did it.
No, but we need to just know somebody did it.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, you heard me, didn't you?
No, I didn't. I'm sorry.
It's
Councillor.
getting hangry, people. It's lunchtime.
Okay. Yes, all those in favor?
Sorry, can I just correct the wording, staff? Pause the AED program until a financing program has been.
Until it-
Until
What am I saying?
maintenance costs are.
Until there's a maintenance and
Replacement,
plan in place.
maintenance and replacement.
Thank you.
Mhm.
That's the word. Yeah.
Including the funding thereof.
Yeah.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you. Steph.
That's still good for
Okay.
everyone.
You know, I like thereof, Alison.
That's a very good word indeed. I like it.
Sounds very
I must
professional.
use it myself, including
Okay,
it all.
so I'm
All
gonna,
those in favor?
oh,
Aye.
Okay, next, go ahead, Christie.
okay, so the next one is the naloxone program. So this is sort of a very kind of up and coming idea. one of the residents suggested that I investigate a naloxone program. So I did, spoke to Aaron about it, spoke to the pharmacy about it. The pharmacy will supply the municipality with naloxone. This is the nasal spray naloxone. It is not dangerous. Even if you take it and you're not having an overdose, you won't be hurt. And there's very little training, I mean, if any, required. You just stick it up somebody's nose and.
Does everybody know what naloxone is used for?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what the suggestion is that we, the pharmacy provide naloxone kits, and we then put them in with the AEDs in the AED housing.
You gotta be kidding.
No, not kidding.
That's- They're just gonna get picked up and walked away with, and little kids will play with them and everything else.
Well,
Did you have a point of view, Aaron?
I think it is something that needs to be available and out there, that, you know, it certainly does save lives.
Yeah.
That's,
like I don't see the AEDs being picked up and played with, or removed or stolen or anything like that.
But
There is
that's,
no cost to the municipality. The pharmacy will replace any naloxone kits that are taken. The response that I got from BCH was a very positive one, and that they were encouraging this, and that they thought it was a very, forward thinking program, and
Go ahead.
supported us.
I'm,
Can I ask, how does this works in other municipalities? Like I see it in the city of Vancouver, for example. I see.
Yeah, so the city of Vancouver, it is available publicly. I have a bunch of information that I got with my emails back and forth from Vancouver Coastal Health, asking them for their direction on this. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, sorry, I'm not the chair.
Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Morse. I mean,
Councillor
Fast.
Sure.
I
I just, I'm interested to hear from Aaron. He said it wouldn't hurt. They wouldn't hurt. I'm wondering about the needs side of it. Have naloxone kits been needed and used on Bowen?
not by the fire department yet, no.
Okay. And do you have any idea about whether they've been used by the ambulance service, or maybe Christie, you've talked to them?
I haven't talked to them, but I can talk to them.
I'm just reluctant to initiate a new project without having a needs assessment.
that's sort of my question was, do the RCMP have naloxone kits that
Yes.
they can use?
Yes,
Okay, and does the first responders have naloxone kits?
yes.
Ambulance?
The
people?
problem is when people are dying from opioid, they're not calling first responders. So that is the issue.
Yeah, my question is, have we had people dying from opioids on Bowen where this kind of kit would be helpful?
Well, I'm
Yeah.
not sure. One of the counselors lost a family member to an opioid event. I'm not sure if that happened on Bowen or not.
One of the counselors? Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, I just, before we embark on any project, I would love to see a needs assessment. I know what cities and are doing, and I know that it's a crisis, and I would just like to have a better handle on it before we.
Yeah, and I have all that information, and maybe if I compile it and send it out to everyone and we can discuss it. I mean, it's not something that has to be done right away. It just seems like Vancouver Health is definitely supporting this. We can do this with a very minimal cost, if any, to the city. Bonnie, the temperature thing is, we have to look into the logistics of the temperature aspect of it. But Louise Howard and I are going to be taking over the maintenance of the AEDs anyway. So we could also just be taking care of the naloxone at the same time.
Okay, can I just?
Look at it is if one person uses this kit, and it might not even be recorded, one person, there's a party, they know where the naloxone is, they go down there, they revive somebody. Maybe it's not even reported to the police or first responders because people don't want to get in trouble for using illegal drugs, the program is worth it.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. I'm just not sure people know where the EEDs are at this point. And I just wonder, I'd be interested in how, I mean, this is a good idea in principle. Is it the best idea? Is it something that will definitely add? That's a question I have. We have to think of our community and the scale of our community, the type of development we have, semi-rural, with one sort of urban area, if you like, called Snug Cove, that, for example. Are there other examples in other parts of the province where similar communities to ours, either island communities or smaller communities, how do they deal with this problem outside of the RCMP, the ambulance service, and so forth? I'd really like to know that and just be satisfied that we are addressing the problem properly and doing all we can. I support the initiative in terms of the objective. I just want to know we're doing the best thing.
I guess I did a little research.
My question would be what the alternative is, like how else we could address the problem.
I did a little research and went looking at I Googled naloxone and stuff, and it's looked to me as if if families were concerned or people were concerned that they knew somebody who might overdose, they could actually go and get a kit and have it.
Yep, you can. You can get an naloxone kit, but this is, sometimes people do this alone. They do this by themselves. They do this, or their families don't know that they're users, or this is not just drug addicts. This is not just people on the street. There's people doing opioid drugs in their homes. So not just an urban issue. I feel like we don't know what our demographic is doing at the end of the day.
I agree with that. We don't know. Go ahead, Councillor Fast.
This is helpful, Christie, because now I realize we don't have the information to do a needs assessment. And here we've got these resources spread out and already set up in the community. So my next question is, do you see the naloxone kit just sitting inside the little cupboard on top of the pads sort of thing, or how much adaptation?
Beside it, yeah.
Okay, so in the little.
And then we would have public education that it's there.
Okay, well, in that case, it seems to me that using the resources we've already got, these little houses, these AED birdhouses all over, maybe it would be a good use of those, because I do recognize the crisis that they are, and that you need to have them, and that it's kind of a similar thing to the AEDs. It's when there's an emergency right there that people can go and get it.
Is there any downside, Christie? But
I'm gonna shut up now.
Well, that's what, Bill, that's a good question. Sorry, I saw your question, Alison. I'll talk to that in a second, but I don't see how it detracts. Like, other than people reputationally, feel that this is not alignment with, the message that we're trying to send out, to be enabling drug use or something like that. But I mean, the fact is that if people are going to be doing drugs, they're going to be doing drugs regardless. And if there's a way that you can save somebody's life just by having a very innocuous drug available to people for no cost to the municipality, it just seems like a bit of a no-brainer.
Let me ask one more question. Given that these are unsupervised stations, is there any danger to anyone to break in and use that? What happens if somebody injects themselves and who doesn't have an opioid issue at that point? Is that dangerous?
It doesn't matter. No, they're not. It's not dangerous at all. So,
okay, so there's no downside.
One of the questions that I asked Vancouver Coastal Health. A child could go in there and eat it, and there would be no ramifications, medically speaking.
Okay, I think what I'm hearing though is that it would be interesting to try this as a pilot project and see how it goes along. If we could just get those kits and put them into the 6 locations that we have, or however many we have. Liam, question.
The only concern that I have with it, and Christie and I touched on it briefly, is that we would have to set up and publicize too what the maintenance schedule would be for it, so that it's understood that we're not checking these kits on a daily or weekly basis, because we don't want to be exposing ourselves to some unknown liability where people expect to go there and find this kit and there could not be a kit there.
And it's not there. It's not there.
And so
Totally.
I don't want to, so we have to be abundantly clear that if we're doing this, that like we only check monthly or every 2 months or something. And so that it's not a guarantee.
Yeah, I agree with that, Liam. I see that. And Alison, sorry, to answer your question, no, I haven't checked with Caring Circle as to whether or not they supply naloxone kits or not.
Liam, do you see a way of protecting us from that liability?
Oh, just have to be clear about that level of service that you're going to be providing, right? So that, you know, hey, we're providing this service, but there can't be a guarantee on it. Because even just going around on a monthly basis to every AED to check is a significant amount of time. And, you know, Christie's already got a limited amount of hours available. So I wouldn't want to spend it all going around and checking naloxone kits.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions, Councillor Class?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that the EPEC supports staff continuing to explore the naloxone in AED boxes program. So I didn't.
Okay.
Is that
a seconder? Do we have a seconder for that?
My own.
Sorry, there's something
Well,
about.
there is a
sending the
recommendation on the
Mhm.
Okay, what does it say?
that the
We wanna
Emergency
send the-
Program Executive Committee support or not support a municipally run naloxone program and direct the Emergency Program Coordinator to send the proposal for legal review.
Oh, okay, I'll move that instead.
Is that? I'm sorry, could you read that again, please?
That the Emergency Program Executive Committee support a municipally run naloxone program and direct the Emergency Program Coordinator to send the proposal for legal review.
That's very wide open, I have to admit.
I'm not comfortable with that.
It's very wide open. Could we bring it in to be
We
more
could explore.
targeted?
Yeah, I'm more
And that-
comfortable with the Emergency Program Executive Committee supporting
Further exploration.
coordinator, whatever Christie's title
Okay,
is,
so
continuing to explore a naloxone program, including legal review.
okay, that works.
Including the use of the AED stations.
Well, no, that's part of the program.
Is it?
Well, continuing to
just leaving it
explore the program would mean looking at ways to do it, how to do it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So just the committee support further exploration of a municipally run naloxone program, including legal review.
Oh, no. No, I don't think that's what we said.
Okay.
I mean,
What'd you
Well,
say?
that's what I said.
that's very wide open. I'm really concerned that you're opening us up to a municipally run naloxone program, and I don't know that it's a purview of this committee to do that.
Oh, so exploration of providing naloxone in public
Be a little more
spaces?
specific. Yeah, I get
Yeah,
what.
I think it's too wide
Exploration
open.
of
The
providing.
provision of naloxone.
Liam, could you give us
Naloxone.
some wording that would work, please?
Yeah,
public
so
spaces.
that the committee support further exploration of municipally run naloxone program where
Could it be provision?
like
Yeah.
where where naloxone kits are provided through the AED.
Program?
Yes, that's getting to it right there.
We're
Provided in
just
alignment
saying,
with the AED?
municipally provided, or naloxone provided municipally, like just something.
I want to add to the AED program and the AED that, because
Okay.
that's.
Well, it's not really associated to the AED program.
No,
That's
but
not
it's
it.
tied
No,
to
but
the
I want
AED.
it to be associated with the AED program because that comes within our scope of business as far as I can see. But
In alignment with, does that work? No,
I like
naloxone program.
I like Steph's suggestion of in alignment with, because that doesn't preclude Christie putting them on the NERP kiosks or somewhere else if needed. But it says that that's our main focus, so it's a little bit of a constraint or a little containment of it.
so what do we have, Steph?
Committee support further exploration of a municipally run naloxone program in alignment with the AED program. And you want to
Legal
include the
review.
legal review piece?
The problem
Yes,
is, nobody
And-
knows what a naloxone program is. So it needs to be
Why does it, what?
free distribution of naloxone is what we're talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, how about this? So that the
Okay.
emergency program or the committee support,
Mhm.
EPEC.
Yeah.
support the municipality providing naloxone kits through various means, such as the AED stations,
NERP kiosks.
NERP kiosks, and direct the emergency program coordinator to explore implementation of such a program, including a legal review.
Second,
Christie, I want to ask you, call the question, but before we do that, I want to ask Christie, I know you're very passionate about this subject, and rightfully so. Does that meet with your reason for bringing this forward?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I want to make sure
Absolutely.
that.
Let's explore further. You know, this was definitely, it has room for exploration, 100%.
I actually want to do it, but let's get to that point as soon as we can. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you for that. That was a very worthwhile discussion and one of the most important things we've probably discussed today. Next, Steph, what's the next item?
I think the next item might be lunch. No,
You got
No,
8.3 there.
sorry. We have
I have
two
to do the
things. One
councillor
is the
fast.
climate adaptation and one is COVID.
We got
and
4 minutes.
We've got 4 minutes.
Can we defer the climate one and read it ourselves or for information?
Yeah,
Let me ask Councillor Fast.
The climate one is just the link to I'll send the link to the webinar around again if it doesn't work. But basically, it's just to let people know that ecosystem specific FireSmart guidelines are under development on Salt Spring Island and in the Islands Trust area. So they're FireSmart. There's a bunch of info in the slide, and that are linked there with the timestamps. But basically, taking out big trees in a rainforest is not necessarily. It's not good. It actually can go the other way, and lead to drying and lead to more fire initiation and fires that burn hotter. So I just wanted to flag with people, including the fire chief, that other fire chiefs are working on this too. And I will let them know. And I just thought you might want to have this information as you're developing the terms of reference for the upcoming community wildfire plan renewal. Something about ecosystem specific. I know we've got the new brochure, which is partway there, but the FireSmart guidelines were developed in Alberta in a completely different ecosystem.
Yeah.
And ecosystems make a difference. So I just wanted to flag that, and that's it for me today.
Could you resend the link, Councillor Fast? Because it's not working.
Okay, will do.
Thanks.
I think that's good. That's a good thing to read as well. Okay.
I can do it, Sue Ellen.
Okay, thank you.
Any other business 8.3? Okay, hearing none.
We were gonna do the COVID update
Quick
there.
COVID update.
Oh, please, who was going to do that?
I can lead and Christie can chime in as needed. So we did report out on the after action report at our last meeting. We continue to work on the action, I think the 41 action items from that report. Of those, about 20 are complete and about 30 have been, 30 have been started. Of those 30, about 20 are complete. So there's about 10 or 11 that are underway. The majority of the work that has been completed has been about internal, gaining internal efficiencies on how we run an EOC, sorry. And also increasing our flexibility and functionality. And so one decision that was easy to make was that any new computers that the municipality buys will actually be laptops other than our servers, and so that people can work on in a more mobile situation in the event of an emergency. So that's a new protocol. So a lot of those recommendations have been put into action. Some of the remaining items that have not yet been done are some of the improvements to some of the outward facing communications, as well as some of the training that we're actually going to be undertaking this fall, as well as, and as part of that training too, is one of the recommendations was around encouraging the broader business community to do more business continuity planning, and that work was done, but we also need to do it internally in-house as well. And so we that is also on our to-do list. And so we'll continue to try to make sure we address all of the recommendations out of that report, and that carries on. COVID in and of itself continues to be a significant challenge for the municipality. The impacts of COVID are real, regardless of whether you've received COVID or whether you had COVID or not. I see COVID fatigue throughout the departments. Just from the level of work that the municipality has undertook through the pandemic didn't slow down. If anything, it increased, and that's taken a big toll on the organization. And the way that we do work also continues to add pressure and anxiety. I think the team has done really well at managing through, but we're not through this yet, and we are going to see some long-term impacts on just the health and well-being of our employees. We have shifted. The province shifted from requiring COVID safety plans to what's the term? There's a term for that. It's the communicable disease prevention plans, and so it's much more about how do we stop the spread of any kind of communicable disease, right? And it's much more focused on just the good daily practice of taking care of your work environment, and making sure that you're doing personal health checks, and that you're all of those good practices of washing your hands and not coming to work when you're sick, and those types of things. And so we continue to have frequent meetings with the Vancouver Coastal on COVID, and continue to have regional meetings with all of the other local governments on, and COVID is always a topic on those as well. And I think most pertinent is the recent requirement for vaccine passport checking for our recreational programs. And so it's now more than ever hitting our frontline workers pretty hard, and the recreation program in particular. So they having to check people's vaccination status for participating in the programs has created a bit of challenges for them, where we see people that are dead set against the vaccination program. You know, there hasn't been reports of like anything egregious, but there definitely have been reports of members of the public, you know, verbally abusing and getting quite irate and upset about it. We have seen members of the public also come into our front offices here, and not so far past, one member came in and ripped their mask off, and just to sort of spite and say, I'm not, you can't force me to wear a mask. And so, you know, the impacts continue to be real, and they've kind of changed to where there's more division in the community between the current regulations and how they're being administered. And we just continue to stay abreast and adjust accordingly. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Liam. That's good, because I have a daughter who works at the City of Richmond, and I know somewhat what you speak of in terms of the amount of workload that municipal staff have had to go with throughout this whole COVID. And I continue to worry about the mental health of our staff going forward, and urge people to keep a real eye on that, because that's really an unknown fact that's going to come out of all of this, as to how we get out the other side mentally on our staff. And I think from what I hear, you've got your finger on that button there, which is good. Appreciate that. And I can say well done, and look forward to getting through this with as little stress as possible for all of us, including obviously your staff and the municipality. So thank you. Councillor Faster, do you?
Just thank you for that. As a councillor, I haven't been in a council meeting, well, apart from a few little bits and pieces since the end of July. So that was through the wildfire risk season and the heat dome and all that kind of thing. So I really appreciate all the updates in this meeting, including the COVID one. And Liam, I've got a few resources I'm going to send you, because I'm, as a chair of local trust committees on other islands, I'm wrestling with some of these things about vaccine passports. We can't ask for them, right, at public meetings, but masks we can. Anyway, I've got some supporting things and I'll send them on to you. And thanks very much, Christie. And I got to go.
Thank you, Christie. And can I have a motion for adjournment? Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Yes, from Alison.
You don't need a motion.
You can just terminate the meeting.
We are adjourned.
You just have the power.
Thanks, everyone.
There we go.
Thank you.
Bye.
Everyone, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.